On this episode of How to Make Dinner, I'm making lemony dill turkey meatballs. Welcome to another episode of How to Make Dinner. Today I'm making a recipe that has been on my website, howtomakedinner.com, for a little while, and I love it, but for some reason I don't make it very often. And I'm having some friends over for dinner tonight and I needed something to make, and I thought this would be the perfect thing because it feeds about 8 people and I think we're having about 7 people over. And it's kind of springy. It's got that freshness from dill and lemon, and it's kind of just comfort food but also super springy and sort of light at the same time. So because I don't make this all the time, I am going to follow my own recipe for it. I made the meatballs a little bit earlier, so all I did for that was I took an onion and some garlic and some fresh dill, quite a bit of fresh dill. If you don't like dill quite that much, you can definitely swap it out for parsley or swap out half of the dill for some parsley. You definitely do want that green herb in there though, because it just adds so much nice freshness. So I kind of roughly chopped that in my food processor, and then I added the zest of a couple lemons, a couple eggs, and then these meatballs call for rolled oats or quick oats, and that's one of the beauties of this recipe because it's just, you don't have to have breadcrumbs on hand. I don't know about you, but I always have oats on hand, but I don't always have breadcrumbs on hand. So I like making meatball recipes that use oats rather than breadcrumbs. But I happen to have a bunch of breadcrumbs this time around because of all of my sourdough failures over the past couple months. So I decided to use some of those that I had in the freezer. And then I just pulsed that together, added the ground turkey. This one is lean ground turkey, which is kind of what you want. In the recipe it says half turkey breast, half turkey thigh, with the intention of getting to sort of a lean turkey, not extra lean. And then I just kind of pulse that together and then scoop it into balls. You know I love my portion scoop, so I used that to scoop it into balls. I got 21 meatballs. Depends on what size you make them, but these ones are fairly large, like golf ball sized. And then I just put those in the fridge to chill for about 30 minutes. That'll make sure that the breadcrumbs really kind of absorb the liquid in the meatballs and everything kind of sets nicely. While I was waiting for the meatballs to set, I also chopped a little bit of extra garlic and 2 tomatoes, just regular old tomatoes. Not exactly tomato season yet, but these tomatoes looked pretty good and they were almost like overripe, almost a little bit mushy, which to me is good, especially when I'm going to cook them into something like this. So I've got quite a large saute pan here, and I'm going to put some olive oil in, and I'm just going to start frying the meatballs. I do want to make sure the pan is good and hot before I put the meatballs in because I don't want them to stick, because that would be embarrassing. And I'll probably have to do these in a couple of batches because quite a few meatballs here. Okay, so that's about half. I'm gonna stop there. And I'm not worrying about cooking them through at this point. I just want to brown them a little bit because we're gonna cook them through at the end in the sauce. It was really hard to decide what to make for this dinner party for some reason. It's officially spring, but there's not a lot of spring produce yet. Asparagus that I found in the store is still from Mexico. I prefer to wait until I can get local asparagus. So actually what was local in the store were these really beautiful cabbage tops. So they're basically like shoots from overwintered cabbage, and they're so nice. They remind me of Gailan, Chinese broccoli, or broccolini. They kind of have a really nice, quite tender stem, and they're delicious. So I just blanched those, and I'm just gonna kind of quick saute them in some olive oil later. And then I've got some fingerling potatoes too that I think I'm just gonna crumble a little bit of parsley and feta cheese on top. Meatballs are kind of annoying to fry. I generally love an oven meatball. I love to just bake them, and you can totally do that here, but pan frying them definitely makes them a bit more brown. You get more of a crust when you pan fry them. Depending on how patient you are, you can let these go and brown on more sides, but They're brown enough for me. I'm just gonna take them out and start the next batch. While that second batch is frying, I have the 2 lemons that I zested earlier, and I'm just going to squeeze them so that we can add the juice to the pan in a bit. I'm trying to go back and make videos for all the blog posts that I have and all the recipes that I have. I'm curious how many of you watch this channel for the recipes or for the tips versus how many just enjoy watching people cook and then just watch it for entertainment. Let me know where you stand on that. I'm very curious because I grew up watching cooking shows, of course. I was so obsessed with them, but it was never about cooking the thing. It was always about watching somebody cook. So I want to know how many of you are out there. Okay, these are pretty brown. I'm going to take them out. I'm just putting them back directly onto this same sheet pan because remember, we're going to cook them properly in a minute, so it's okay that they're touching the raw turkey pan. Into the same pan, I'm just going to add a little bit more oil, and I'm going to add the tomatoes and the garlic. Fun. I love how tomatoes cook down. Oh, it reminds me of summer, even though it's not summer yet. It will be soon, and it makes me excited for summer. Okay, I'm gonna add the meatballs back in. All of them this time because they're all brown. My watch is buzzing because my bread is ready. The bread can wait. Okay, and then I'm gonna add some chicken stock, and actually, hold on. 1 second. The bread is ready. Not a bad loaf. Pretty happy with that. It was maybe a little bit overproofed because it's kind of like floppy, but overall I'm pretty happy. I already had an open jar of Better Than Bouillon beef stock in the fridge, so I'm just using that. I can't deal with the idea of having multiple stock concentrates open in my fridge at the same time. My fridge is basically just jars, and you know, having another jar just for a slightly different flavor of broth, not for me. So beef stock it is. I just made it a little bit weak. And then what? Where was the lid? I'm reducing the heat to medium now. I'm putting the lid on, and I'm gonna let these meatballs simmer in this tomatoey, brothy mixture for about 12 to 15 minutes or until the meatballs are cooked through. So we'll see you in a few. It's been about 12 minutes, and I'm confident that these meatballs are cooked through. Oh, they look so good. The last step is to finish these meatballs with just a whole bunch of spinach. This is one of those times that I like buying pre-washed baby spinach. It's just so easy. Just dump a bunch in and call it a day. It calls for 150 grams. This bag has 227 grams. I mean, I could probably get away with just putting the whole thing in if it fits, which it kind of doesn't. Let's see what happens when I stir it a bit. And that spinach is wilting down really quickly. And then the last thing is just to add that lemon juice. This is a lot of lemon juice. I might pull a bit back because it says the juice is 2 lemons, but those lemons were super juicy. Then I'll put a little splash into my fizzy drink. And then it says to cook for about a minute with the lid on until the spinach is wilted. And then we're done. That's such an easy dinner, and it's kind of unique. It's kind of a not your average everyday meatball, you know? It's got that lemony dill action going on. So I'm just gonna taste a bit of the broth. So lemony. It's so good. I'm gonna call that done. I'm not gonna eat one right now because there's only 21 and I want to, you know, be a good host and let my friends take first pick. But I'll show you what everything looks like once it's all out on the table with the cabbage tops and the fingerling potatoes and the meatballs. And I'm really looking forward to eating this dinner. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you in the next one.